Hi, I'm Harry Shelton. In 2019, I set out to produce a TV pilot, a sample for a proposed television series. This is my story, a guide for the indie filmmaker. I woke up from a dream one morning in 2019. A TV show had just played in my head, a show that had not yet been created. I envisioned a comedy based on GIs who were the first enlistees of the Space Force, the new military branch which had just been launched by the Trump administration. I quickly wrote down the basic characters and plot. The first idea was a satirical adult storyline which featured various interesting relationships between crew members on board a spacecraft with a lesbian African-American commander and various other races, genders, and persuasions. A cross-section of types based on GIs I remembered from my time in the Army and the many military-themed sitcoms I had watched since the first television show I ever saw in 1956. On Saturday morning, we would awaken early to watch the test pattern that would precede Howdy Doody, a puppet show hosted by Buffalo Bob with his sidekick, Clarabelle the Clown. Immediately, I knew that television was to be my destiny. By a fortuitous quirk of fate, I wound up doing exactly what I hoped to do all of my young life, thanks to the U.S. Army. Who knew that the Army had television stations? They had 429 of them all over the world. I was able to train as a television equipment repairman at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. In 1973, I graduated from the U.S. Army Signal School. My duty assignment was as an engineer in the American Forces TV station in Okinawa, Japan. By the way, video engineers are the technical people who set up and operate control room equipment. The station, FEN, was on VHF Channel 8. We ran old movies and sitcoms from the 50s and 60s. We had football games from the previous week that were flown in on 16mm film kinescopes. Most AFRTS stations only had black and white equipment, but we were one of two American Forces stations that had color film and color videotape. We did news broadcasts 3 times daily. I soon became a technical director. That is the person who pushes buttons to select camera shots or film clips to insert into a live or recorded broadcast. Our group also ran the projectors that put endless old movies and failed TV series that were not renewed by the networks. Not exactly the big time, but I was on my way. A decade after World War II, film and television producers, many of them veterans, began to return to stories of GIs in war and peace. White Christmas, released by Paramount Pictures in 1954, featured Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye as 2 song and dance men entertaining the troops in 1945. After returning to civilian life, the two then staged a television Broadway show to help their former commanding general promote his struggling ski lodge. This may not have been the first picture to fantasize about military life, but it was enough to convince television executives that war stories and the workaday lives of soldiers and sailors could be played for comedy. In 1955, comedian Phil Silvers took the role of peacetime Master Sergeant Ernest Bilko in You'll Never Get Rich. The first name of the senior NCO was ironic in that he was constantly creating money-making schemes that ultimately failed, using his enlisted troops to help carry out the plots underneath the noses of unsuspecting officers. That same year, Andy Griffith created the character Will Stockdale in No Time for Sergeants on the U.S. Steel Hour. Here, the country boy recruit would perplex his superiors with his rural approach to protecting the nation. This Air Force version of barracks life would go on to be produced as a Warner Brothers film and later a TV series on ABC TV. In 1962, the popularity of John F. Kennedy spawned a TV send-up of a PT boat crew in the Pacific Wartime Theater with, you guessed it, superior officers obsessed with promotion to higher rank, while enterprising boat crews set up a souvenir racket in between combat patrols, all the while hiding a Japanese POW who did their laundry. McHale's Navy. As early television discovered a new format that appealed to ex-GIs from both World War II and Korea, The theme of scheming enlisted men and clueless officers was transplanted to the Old West in F Troop in 1965. Military comedies were now a mainstay of network primetime schedules. Andy Griffith, who created the original Will Stockdale role from the Broadway and film versions of No Time for Sergeants, was now a huge hit as a small-town sheriff in rural Mayberry, North Carolina. His gas pump jockey, Gomer Pyle, volunteered his simplistic country boy sensibilities to the unforgiving disciplinarians of the U.S. Marine Corps, Gomer Pyle, USMC. And who ever would have thought that a Nazi prison camp could be so funny? CBS did. Hogan's heroes turned captured allies into covert resistance fighters who, wait for it, thwarted the German war machine by launching secret missions to blow up railroad trains, while dim-witted guards and officers tried to keep their cushy camp status quo unnoticed by higher command. In 1970, MASH, a novel about 3 Army doctors in a Korean War field hospital, was adapted to a hit 20th Century Fox movie and later a hit CBS TV comedy series. In a twist, anti-authoritarian draftee doctors take on the regular Army bumblers who like the war for their own nefarious and licentious purposes. So now it's 2019, and troops are now off to fight in the final frontier, space. Here on Earth, rockets with astronauts are launching monthly. There's talk of bases on the Moon and Mars. What would that show look like? I began to sketch out some ideas. A spacecraft, a satellite tender, but there's more to that than meets the eye. The CR-69er of the United Satellite Security Force, a multinational agency responsible for the protection of Earth's communication infrastructure in the geosynchronous satellite belt. The crew: Commander Maggie Moss, African-American, stacked, savvy, all-seeing, all-knowing, career officer. Chief Concannon, the senior non-com, transferred from the Marine Corps. Tough, no clowning around. He takes names and kicks ass. Chief Science Officer Larry Biglione, leader of the mission specialists. He assesses threats and advises the commander. He's good with facts and figures, but not a people person. Mission Specialist Mari Rojas, Puerto Ricana, Latina with an attitude, late 20s, computer specialist. Yeoman Wendell Wainwright, Asian, weapons officer. He operates the Space Blaster 50K laser cannon, graduated first in his class. Space Intelligence Agent Lyle Amsterdam. He talks in agency doublespeak and seems to be spying on the crew constantly. Had a 2.2 GPA in college. Helmsman Mate 7 Louis Conway, pilot of the CR-69er. The ship is controlled by a joystick. He's saving his pay to open a nightclub when his tour is done. Petty Officer 4 Andy Garrett, good-natured young man on his first tour. He is the co-pilot and EVA specialist. In civilian life, he was a race car driver. Dr. Agarwala, an MD from Bengaluru, India. She transmates aboard to assess the mental and physical readiness of the CR-69er personnel. And Chico del Espacio, an extraterrestrial who stows away on the CR-69er after a collision with a crippled Soviet satellite. Now to make a TV pilot.
You know what, I was still skeptical, but on another hand, I was thinking, but maybe this is answer to my prayers. Maybe this is it. So I gotta take some actions. If I don't take actions, nothing's gonna happen, right? So I decided to join. If you're just gonna follow the steps, you'll make money with this. So for those of you that thinking it's not real, let me tell you, it's real.